Can you give an example of a protagonist, an interesting protagonist, and why we connect with that protagonist anywhere in cinema?
Well, for some reason, Forrest Gump just popped into my head. I mean, Michael Haig in his book Writing Screenplays That Sell
Sure.
had this great section on empathy and the different techniques for gaining empathy. And a lot of it, when you really look at it, is a manipulation on the part of the writer, a very conscious manipulation of giving a character certain elements that make you care about them. Save the Cat talked about they have to save a cat in the first 10
Right.
pages, which is kind of a joke, but it's actually true. They have to do something that makes us sympathize and feel like that's a good person. I like that person. There's this real in vogue thing of unlikable main characters and anti-heroes, and people point to shows like Breaking Bad and say, look what a dark figure he was. And I always say, look at the pilot of Breaking Bad. And he was the most lovable, relatable, average everyman you could ever possibly meet, who had all of these undeserved misfortunes, which is a phrase Michael Haig uses. When you give a character undeserved misfortune, like Forrest Gump didn't ask to be mentally handicapped and have those things on his legs and have people make fun of him, it's not fair. You immediately side with the poor, lovable, nice kid who's got these unfair things about his life. He didn't ask to not have a father. He didn't ask to be picked on and chased, all these things that are just totally not fair. And in his simplicity, there's a goodness and a lovability that just makes you feel like he's your kid, like you just want to protect him. I forgot what I was going to say about the undeserved misfortune, but another thing is when you put a character in jeopardy, so that we're worried about the character, which they do that with Forrest Gump as well. And Michael has this whole list of things that are really genius. That he's observed in movies over the years. But so much of the time you'll be reading a script and it's like, yeah, I don't have a strong pull to this person.
I don't care.
Oh, I know what I was going to say. Breaking Bad, there are all these elements of undeserved misfortune. It's like he's a chemistry teacher who's passionate and good and his students couldn't care less. He doesn't make enough money, so he has to moonlight at a car wash where his students see him and make fun of him.
Yep.
He finds out he's dying. He doesn't have enough money to leave his family after his death. This poor schmuck, right? So you need to do all that for the audience to then accept when he starts cooking meth that, okay, this is his only option and we get why he's doing it and we still love him. And he's still in way over his head once he starts cooking meth. Way over his head. There's dangerous people everywhere and he's going to get arrested and it's like...
Or killed. Or
killed. It takes a very long time for him to become the kind of like, heavy, the kind of like top of his
Heisenberg.
game, scary guy of Heisenberg. Yeah. So I just think it's a mistake to just say, oh, you can make your character really unlikable and it's fine. I don't even worry about it. It's not, you can't get away with that as easily as it might seem. So I'm always explaining to people, well, here, this character that you think is unlikable in this thing that really worked, let's look at all the things that actually make them likable. And usually there's quite a few of them that people didn't even notice. So,
yeah, if you look at someone like Wolverine or Logan, who is an anti-hero, quote unquote, there's things in his backstory that, it's unfortunate. He didn't want to become Wolverine. It was forced upon him. He lives in a constant cycle of always healing, not really aging, so he can live for hundreds of years and see people die. Like there's a lot of things that, if you go back to like even the Vampire Lestat, who's a very unlikable, he's a villain, but you kind of go with him a little bit and you see from his point of view what he has to go with. So even the most unlikable characters in history, in literature, they all have this kind of thing that you're talking about. Like Breaking Bad, I still say is one of the best series ever written or ever shot, ever created. It's perfection in my opinion. From the beginning, from the best pilot I've ever seen to one of the best endings I've ever seen. And how they took that one beautiful, lovable guy and turned him into Heisenberg, who was, spoiler alert, a murderer, egomaniacal maniac. He turned him into essentially. But there was always those little clips of the teacher, of the chemistry teacher, always sparkled in his eye every once in a while. Would you agree?
Yeah, for sure. And I would say the other key with like if somebody's unlikable, if you really pile the problems on top of them, really big problems, that makes a big difference because the audience can't help but relate to the character with the big problems. Like Scarface, pretty unlikable character, but he's facing death around every corner, essentially.
Right.
And if the character gets really beaten up by the events of the story, that helps you forgive unlikable qualities.
But don't
especially
forget
life and death type stuff.
Right, and also don't forget where he came from, though. He was,
Right.
a refugee, all that.
Underdog.
Yeah, completely.
Yeah, he saw his buddy killed with a chainsaw in front of him, in that one scene. I mean, it's
so
like,
good.
yeah.
It's insane.